It is Wednesday night. We are here. Thank you to those who are still tracking with us, even though we're going through prophecy and Daniel. It's a good time. We want to make sure that we always deliver the whole word of God and not just the parts that are easy for us to understand or interpret or live out. So there really are some encouraging things, as we found last week as we finished out Daniel 7. And so let's dive right in. Here's Daniel 8. We've been going through the book of Daniel, and we passed the last couple of weeks into the prophetic section where there's dreams and visions that are strange. It's the reason why many pastors stop teaching Daniel around chapter 6. You're like, hey, you survived the lions, the end. And you just kind of skip the stranger passages. But what I want to do is start out by reading Daniel chapter 8 in its entirety, and then I'm going to attempt to explain it with some historical context, and then we want to apply it. That'll probably come next week, because at that point you'll be wondering, what on earth does this all have to do with me, with us? And I want to drive that home so we're all better people as a result. So Daniel chapter 8 starts out, verse 1. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after that which appeared to me at the first. And I saw in the vision, and when I saw, I was in Susa, the citadel, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in the vision, and I was at the Ulai canal. I raised my eyes and saw, and behold, a ram standing on the bank of the canal. It had two horns. Both horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram charging westward and northward and southward. No beast could stand before him, and there was no one who could rescue from his power. He did as he pleased. He became great. And as I was considering, behold, the male goat came from the west across the face of the whole earth without touching the ground. Remember that. And the goat had a conspicuous horn between his eyes. He came to the ram with the two horns, which I had seen standing on the bank of the canal, and he ran at him in his powerful wrath. I saw him come close to the ram, and he was enraged against him and struck the ram and broke his two horns. And the ram had no power to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and trampled on him. And there was no one who could rescue the ram from his power. Then the goat became exceedingly great, but when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And instead of it, there came up four conspicuous horns toward the four winds of heaven. Verse 9. Out of one of them came a little horn, which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land. It grew great even to the host of heaven. And some of the host and some of the stars it threw down to the ground and trampled on them. So that's the first 10 verses. We're going to cover those this week, and then next week, we will finish the rest of the chapter. You know what? We'll read it. Let's just do it. Verse 11. So talking about the little horn. It became great, even as great as the prince of the host. You're going to have to remember all this. There'll be a test next week, and you'll want to remember this entire chapter of Daniel. Daniel 8, and the regular burnt offering was taken away from him, and the place of his sanctuary was overthrown, and a host will be given over to it together with the regular burnt offering because of transgression, and it will throw truth to the ground. It will act and prosper. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the one who spoke, for how long is the vision concerning the regular burnt offering, the transgression that makes desolate, and the giving over of the sanctuary and host to be trampled underfoot? And he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary shall be restored to its rightful state. Verse 15, when I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand it. And behold, there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, and it called, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. I expect we're going to talk about this week. So he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was frightened, fell on my face. And he said to me, understand, O son of man, that the vision is for the time of the end. And when he had spoken to me, I fell into a deep sleep, with my face to the ground, but he touched me and made me stand up. He said, behold, I will make known to you what shall be at the latter end of the indignation, for it refers to the appointed time of the end. As for the ram that you saw with the two horns, those are the kings of Media and Persia, and the goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn between his eyes is the first king. As for the horn that was broken, in place of which 4 others arose. 4 kingdoms shall arise from his nation, but not with his power. And at the latter end of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their limit, a king of bold face, one who understands riddles, shall arise. His power shall be great, but not by his own power. And he shall cause fearful destruction and shall succeed in what he does and destroy mighty men and the people who are the saints. By his cunning, he shall make deceit prosper under his hand, and in his own mind he shall become great. Without warning, he shall destroy many, and he shall even rise up against the prince of princes, and he shall be broken, but by no human hand. The vision of the evening and the mornings that has been told is true, but seal up the vision, for it refers to many days from now. Verse 27, and I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. Then I rose and went about the king's business, but I was appalled by the vision and did not understand it. And I would guess that Daniel's not alone. This is one of these passages that if you're reading it in your quiet time, you're like, okay, thank God for goats. And I don't know. And then you just turn to Psalms and try to figure out something good and encouraging for the day. Why is this here? Well, give me a moment to try to explain it, maybe 2 weeks. And after I sum it up, we're going to apply it to our own lives. To give you some background of where we are, Daniel, at the time he's having this dream, is in Babylon. So this is a flashback to earlier in his life. Now, some backstory to that. In the book of Genesis, when humanity broke faith with God and the whole world broke, God picked a man named Abraham, or Abram. God told him, hey, I want to bless you. I want to make you a blessing to the entire world, that every family on earth will be blessed through you. But I need you to move. And in Genesis, God changes his name to Abraham and he moves him to this piece of land, which we now know to be Israel. And God says, I want you in this space. And from here, you'll be a blessing to the whole world. And this space, if you know anything about it, is what Ezekiel the prophet called the navel of the nations. It's the center of the world. 3 major continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe are connected in this little strip of land. So God puts his believer in that little piece of real estate and says, I want you there. And then as the nation of Israel grows there, God says, you're going to be my mouthpiece to the world. I'm going to bless you to be a blessing, and you're going to be my PR agents to the world. And yet, if you read through the Old Testament, what happens? Rather than worshiping God alone, they become infatuated with the idols of the culture and the sensuality you would participate in as you worship them. And God warned them through the prophets over the centuries, if you persist in disobedience, I can't bless you. And if you keep doing this, I will cast you out. And they kept doing it, and he did. And so in Daniel's day, what happened? God sent them all the way back to where Abraham came from. And he said, hey, you all want to worship idols? I will give you over to the idol factory, Babylon. You'll go where they came from. You want to flirt with and toy with sin? I'll put you right in the center of it. And what's fascinating is after this exile into Babylon, when they came back, most of the nation of Israel will never flirt with idols again. They'll have other problems, but not these. And yet here, Daniel is now in exile, in captivity in Babylon. Did you notice the verse said it was in the 3rd year of King Belshazzar? King Belshazzar, not a good guy, came to power through conspiracy and murder. So everybody was a little worried as his administration started. How is this going to go? And as he came to power, Cyrus, the king of Persia, this neighboring empire, had kind of built this coalition, and people were understandably worried about him. So Daniel's in the midst of great political uncertainty and instability and wondering what's going to happen. And so in the middle of that, God gives him this dream. And what's crazy about this dream is rather than telling him all about Belshazzar, God's like, yeah, I'm not worried about that. God will give him a dream that shows him 400 years into the future. Strange, because, if I get a dream and I'm in the middle of uncertainty, I'm not worried about 400 years in the future. And yet God gives prophecy of the future to give us perspective of the present. And that's what this moment is. So as Daniel's dreaming about Babylon, he says, I pictured myself in Susa. Susa was not a major city in Babylon. It was going to become a major city of the next empire, Persia. It's actually where Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king. Susa. Esther will reign from Susa. And while he's having this dream, he sees this ram with big horns that's bouncing all around until a goat comes and starts smashing into it. He's having this dream. And if you recall, as I read it at the end, he's like, I don't understand it. And when he doesn't understand it, suddenly somebody appears who looks like a man. And yet his voice comes across many waters, and he commands an angel explain it to him. Who is this man who stands in glory that makes Daniel hit the ground? And yet he speaks and tells angels what to do. A son of man with divine prerogative looks like the son of man, Jesus Christ. And he calls to an angel, Gabriel, which is actually the first time an angel is ever named. Hey, Gabriel, explain this to this man. We know Gabriel, major angel, right? You're going to see him show up in the New Testament. He's the guy that tells Mary, you're pregnant with God with us, the God-made man. And here he is explaining to Daniel what he has seen in his dream. And what he tells him is, all right, you're going to see a ram, and it's got two horns. If you remember what he said about the ram, it said it had two high horns, but there was one that was shorter and one came later but was bigger. And this is a picture of what happened in history. Cyrus the king made an alliance between the Medes and the Persians. Persia was the smaller of the alliance, but it grew bigger under Cyrus the Persian. That's the idea, because remember the angel tells him these two horns are two kings, and when they come into power, he says they will stomp around and stomp everybody. And that's what happened. Medo-Persia stomped everybody. Babylon, Asia Minor, Egypt, they even made raids into Greece. I mean, they were dominant. They could not be stopped. Crazy thing that God had already prophesied this through Isaiah. Isaiah, who lived before this, God told him, hey, I'm going to tell you which power is going to come, and I'll tell you the name of the king. In Isaiah 44, he said, who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd and shall fulfill my purpose, all of my purpose, saying of Jerusalem, she shall be built. And what it meant is she shall be rebuilt. God says, I will call you by name, Cyrus, even though you don't know me. So will God raise up kings who don't know him? Yes. Will God use kings who don't know him for God's purposes? Yes. See Cyrus in Isaiah 44 and 45. And what happened under Persia? Something crazy. Cyrus ends up saying, I feel called by a God named Yahweh to let these believers in him go home. And under Cyrus, the believers would get to go home. And the temple that had been destroyed in Daniel's day was rebuilt. You get Zerubbabel, this is in your Bible, rebuilding the temple. You get Ezra bringing the law back. And so you get the temple being rebuilt. You get Nehemiah sent to rebuild the walls around it. So the believers in God get to go home under the power of Persia. But then in the text, it says then they became powerful and they became great. They got arrogant, like nobody can stop us. And as soon as Persia got arrogant, what happened? This goat comes flying in from the back. I mean, they never even saw him coming. This goat comes flying in with one conspicuous horn in the middle. And it says he crossed the whole earth and doesn't even touch the ground. That's how fast this goat is coming. And then it says he knocks into this ram, like the Superman punch that he didn't even see coming. Full on targeting, helmet to the head and neck area, for you football fans. I mean, he just pounds Persia and nails him. It's exactly what happened in history. The angel says, that's Greece. And that's what Greece did. There was a king of Macedon named Philip. And Persia kept messing with him, famously at the Battle of Marathon. So if you've ever run a marathon, you were celebrating Persia messing with Greece, and they didn't like it. So his son named Alex, when he grew up, took over, and he became the first king of what's known as the Greek Empire, because little Alex became Alexander the Great. And he flew through this area so fast that in less than 10 years, he had conquered the entire known world. That horn, it says, is their first king. That big conspicuous horn was named Alex. And he pounded the Medes and the Persians, took them out. And the interesting thing is that under the Persians, the believers in God were able to go home. Under the Greeks, they taught them Hellenization. What's that? Hellenization. The Hellas is Greek. Hellenization was teaching everybody one language, that suddenly everyone spoke Greek, Koine Greek. Your New Testament is written in Koine Greek, the common, the language of the people, because all the nations now spoke one language. Don't tell me that God doesn't know what he's doing and that God is not in control. And yet that horn, when he became great, Alexander called to be worshipped as a god. And that horn was broken off. And remember in our text, it said one horn went down and four horns came up. And that's, again, usually in your quiet time when you're like, thank you, God, for four horns. Like, I don't know what's going on. Well, the angel says these four horns are four kings that will arise, but none of them will have the same power. And we know from history that's exactly what happened. When Alexander died, he had no clear successor, but he had 4 generals. And they divided up the Greek Empire, and none of them were as powerful as the Greek Empire altogether. And so we won't get into all of who they are. The first 2 were Lysimachus over Asia Minor and Cassander in Greece. We won't worry about them because they're not really relevant to our story. The other 2 were Seleucus, who became the leader of the Seleucid dynasty, and Ptolemy, who became the leader of the Ptolemaic dynasty down in Egypt, where the most famous Ptolemaic leader, you may remember her name, Cleopatra. All right, still with me? All right, here we go. Seleucids, Ptolemies are now ruling. And the people of God who have rebuilt the temple are right in the middle of them, trying to worship the one true God. But as the Seleucids and the Ptolemies rule, they want to expand their kingdom. So they begin to fight with each other over centuries. And the political football right in the middle is the people of God. God tends to put his people right in the middle of drama. He doesn't tuck them away off in some safe little continent. He says, I'm going to put you on that little strip of land that every empire on the planet will fight over. Be blessed. And that's what he does, because God puts Daniel's next to Nebuchadnezzar's, Esther's next to Xerxes. God puts his people in places where he says, I will keep you safe. It won't feel safe, but I'll keep you safe. I won't give you a safe life, but I'll give you a meaningful one. If you trust me, I'll use you to change the world. And here, the believers in God are stuck in the middle of this kingdom. And then remember, this is where the dream gets weirder. You got 4 horns, and out of one of the horns comes a little horn. Starts little, comes up, and says he grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land. So on one of those 4 horns comes a little horn that starts insignificant but becomes great. What in the world is this talking about? Well, pretty much all historians and commentators agree on this one. I don't know anybody that says otherwise. This is talking about the Seleucid king Antiochus. The angel said in verse 23, at the latter end of his kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their limit, this king will come with a bold face, one who understands riddles. Now, by understands riddles, it doesn't mean he's good at puzzles. It means he's a master of intrigue, that he'll start insignificant, but through intrigue, he'll ascend into power, which is exactly what Antiochus did after Alexander the Great died. Judah was in the middle of the Seleucids and the Ptolemies as they would fight. The Seleucid king was raiding a Persian temple because he needed money to fight, and somebody assassinated him while he was plundering the temples. Bad deal for him. And so Antiochus went back to try to consolidate power. The king's nephew was supposed to become king, but through bribery, trickery, and straight up murder, Antiochus became the leader of the Seleucids, okay? And he was bold-faced as a king. He abandoned decorum. He went out into the main square, got drunk, stripped down naked, and took a bath. This guy was wild. And not only was he wild, he'd parade in the streets in all of his kingly glory by day, and then he would dress up and sneak out to go party in the streets at night. He was kind of crazy. And he gave himself a name, Antiochus Epiphanes. Epiphany, the appearance of glory. He minted it on coins. He's like, I am the manifestation of Zeus. I am God in human form. His detractors changed his name a little bit. They called him Antiochus Epiphanes, the appearing of the madman. Like, you're crazy. And yet in the middle of his craziness, he became great, exceedingly great, toward the south. What does that mean? Well, he picked a fight with the Ptolemies and he won. And when he did it, he became great toward the east. He was fighting the remnants of Persia and toward the glorious land. That's talking about Israel, the strip of land which was glorious because God had chosen it for his purpose. And this is where things get really interesting. And we're going to cover it next week. All right, Daniel chapter 8. Very exciting. God's in control. God knows what he's doing. We can trust him. All right. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.